Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the GallowgateShots podcast and YouTube channel. As you can see with us tonight, we do have a very special guest in ex-Newcastle United footballer, Mr. Versatile himself, Mr. Over the Wall, Ryan Taylor. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Not too bad. It's a pleasure to be on.
It's great to have you on. So tonight I am joined by Matty. The reason why Matty has joined me tonight is because he is Mr. Knowledge when it comes to Newcastle United around about the time that you were there, Ryan. So this is why Matty has joined us.
I'm definitely not a stalker, by the way. That's not the way you're making me sound like. But yeah, happy to be here.
So we do have lots of questions in already, Ryan, but I think it's probably best to go right back to the start in regards to your arrival at Newcastle United. So you did arrive in January 2009, and I remember when I was just a young'un, I must have been, well, I'm saying a young'un, I would have been in my late teens. I had the Newcastle United programme, the official fanzine, and there was a slogan on there which said, it was from yourself, which said, "Stop the coach, I'm going to Newcastle." Is that true? Were you en route to a game for Wigan, and that's when you got the phone call to say you were heading to Tyneside?
Yeah, it was. It was a Friday afternoon. We were playing Aston Villa away, and I was actually starting. And funny enough, Steve Bruce was manager. Just shows how small the football world is. But yeah, Brucey was manager, and my agent had to follow the coach to the service station. And then before I knew it, you know, the bus pulled in because there was a lot of talk about the move happening, and with it being so close to deadline day, I just wanted it to happen. I mean, obviously, I had previous with Newcastle when I was at Wigan with the goals and stuff, but for me, I just knew how big the club was. So, you know, and that's no disrespect to Wigan, but you know, whenever I played at St James's or I played against Newcastle at home, I could tell just by the away end how fanatical and well supported the club was. So yeah, I mean, I got my agent to follow the bus. He followed the bus down the M6 and the first services. I mean, obviously, I don't know why he took me on the bus, but yeah, I got off the bus and we headed straight up the road. I might have nipped home just to get some clothes because I probably had my Wigan tracksuit on. And without a care in the world, I just got a bag ready and then yeah, the rest was history. I couldn't wait to obviously get going and sign.
So on the morning when you woke up, when obviously you were, like you said, you were in the starting lineup, did you know that this deal might be happening? Were you pretty confident that this deal was going through?
I mean, you never know how confident it is. I mean, I never really up until that point had many moves. I'd only had one, and that from Tranmere to Wigan, and that happened quite quick as well. Paul Jewell was, you know, the talks I had with him, he made the move easy. So for this, it was, you know, it was another step. It was, you know, for me, it was, you know, going to an elite club at the time, and with the players and the stature of the club, I always looked up to Newcastle as one of, you know, the big clubs in the country. So, you know, for me, I didn't know if it was going to happen because I'm at Wigan at the time. It's a step, even though the probably at the time in the leagues there wasn't much difference, or we could have even been below Wigan. But for me, I just wanted the move to happen. I couldn't wait. So yeah, I was always in the back of my mind thinking, well, if it doesn't, I've got a game. I've got a few months left at Wigan. You know, if deadline day passes, then we look for the summer. But you know, obviously, once I got the phone call and I made my way down that bus, and I shook everyone's hand on the bus, and I shook the manager's bus and his hand on the bus, and off I went, and I got into my agent's car and we headed up the road.
How far and how long was he following this bus for?
Not long. Yeah, not long. That's why I said that I was very surprised that he actually let me, one, you know, be, if you like, in his starting 11 the next day. Because if you think about it, all that's on my mind, okay, I've got a game the next day, so I have to be professional, but I've got such a close move going to Newcastle that how can I concentrate on a game? So really, you know, obviously that's how Steve felt about me at the time. He just wanted me to play. So, you know, I've got two things on my mind: one, a game; two, a move. So yeah, it wasn't the easiest situation to be in. But like I say, why I got on that bus, I don't know, because if the move was going to happen, then, you know, he was saying it was going to happen, because I did have lots of talks with Steve. So yeah, I'm not too sure why he put me on the bus in the first place.
So Matty mentioned this to me, and obviously you mentioned this at the very start of this recording, is that you did have quite a record against Newcastle United. You scored 2 goals against Newcastle in that very same season, which you signed for the club.
Yeah.
What was it like, obviously, travelling up and thinking, I've scored 2 worldies against this club? Did that ever cross your mind?
I mean, I think first of all, I think when I did sign, I actually think I apologised, because, you know, I think in 4 games against Newcastle, there was a goal in every game, and the only one that wasn't a winner was the 2-2 at St James's. But even that was after 4 minutes, and yeah, that was you know, you look back, and obviously when you're a player, it was a good goal. So I think when I first went up, the main thing was everyone knew who I was. Everyone knew what I could do.
So, I was just happy you weren't going to be scoring any more goals against us, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, over the career I had, everyone just says, "Oh, well, you know, you only brought to stop the goals and to stop scoring against them." But listen, I lived the dream when I was up there, apart from obviously the injuries.
Yeah, I'll let you take over on this one, Matty, because I'll lead you into this one. But obviously, when you did arrive at Newcastle, things weren't great, to put it quite subtly and put it nicely. You did walk into a team which, as a fan base looking in, that it didn't look as if they were connecting with each other. They weren't gelling together. Matty, before the recording, you said that obviously, managerial wise, it was quite roller coaster. Around about the time that Ryan tuned in and obviously came to Newcastle United. But I'll let you take it from there, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, just at the time, I remember being over the moon, not just because you scored loads of goals against us, but obviously you brought that versatility to our squad. You came in with Kevin Nolan, and I at the time wasn't really thinking we were going to go down. But I mean, you came in, we weren't in a great position. When you finally got into that behind the scenes and got amongst the squad, did you feel like there was a bit of disjointment, that perhaps we were in a lot more trouble than it seemed?
I mean, I think even going back so far, I always remember doing interviews, and because of what we had in the dressing room, I think was telling the local news, you know, the local reporters and the local press that we were too good to go down. The squad we had was, you know, and the names we had were, on paper, you would never expect to go down. It's just something that probably never really crossed the minds of them players. But, you know, I hadn't been there long, and I could tell, you know, there was, if you like, looking back now, there's a bit of, and you get it out of a lot of clubs, there's dead wood. And I've come into a dressing room, obviously, I don't want to be relegated, but, you know, there's a lot, and like you say, a lot went on behind the scenes. And when I signed, I think I was joking, his last signing, I think, because we had West Brom a few days later away. And the night before, I think, or the morning of the game, that's when he went into hospital. And I never seen him again since, which was obviously very strange for me, because a manager that signed me, I had never even played a game for him. And then obviously Chris takes over. So yeah, it was a bit of it wasn't an easy start. And then, you know, all of a sudden we don't win a few games. And there's still a lot going on behind the scenes. You know, we had Michael Owen there who couldn't get himself fully fit. And albeit his records in football was amazing and the goals he scored and stuff like that, but when you can't get a player like that fit, you obviously take out goals. And yeah, when I went in, I went from a Wigan team that had an unbelievable team bonding, because I think it's such a small knit club at the time, that I walk into sort of a big dressing room where, like, players, they just go home and they train, they go home, they train, they go home. You don't really see anyone else. So I got really close with Stephen Taylor because we were both in the England setups, and he was one of the only people I knew really. And at the time, I didn't have a family or nothing up. So when I was up there, it was just me basically. So I spent a lot of time with Stephen, and yeah, within the first couple of weeks, you could tell that something just wasn't right. But then when you don't win football games, you lose confidence. Confidence obviously is a massive thing in football, and obviously we weren't winning games. So when you're playing at home, the fans are a little bit critical, if you like. They can jump on your back, and it's sink or swim. But what I did notice when we did go down, and we, if you like, get rid of the players who don't want to be there, it just shows what can happen the following season.
Yeah,
that ties in well, doesn't it, with what we were going to ask next?
Yeah. So once again, just before we start recording, obviously that season, which you're right, we did get relegated, and Wigan stayed up. But one of the things which we wanted to talk about, which has been publicised quite a bit, is the player revolution within the dressing room and the changing rooms after the defeat to Leyton Orient in pre-season. We've looked back and we can't see your name within that team, in that squad.
I didn't go, and I mean, I obviously heard all about it, but it was a pre-season game. I maybe had a little knock on, or I just wasn't involved in that one. Maybe there was one a couple of days later. I'm not sure, but was it? I mean, I can't remember what score it was because I wasn't involved. But was it about 5 or 6-1? Yeah. And when you look back, that doesn't happen. You normally go away to teams like Leyton Orient and give them a 6-0 drubbing in pre-season, because that's what they're expecting. And to be on the on the other side of that, it was obviously a good one to miss, but at the same time, you just knew that things just still weren't quite right.
Yeah, so obviously you would have been in and around the likes of the training sessions and things around at that time. Was it as toxic as we are led to believe amongst the players, and not necessarily a divide, but obviously the rumours and the quotes which we've heard are basically, if you don't want to be at this club, then leave now. Was it as bad as that?
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah, I think looking back at it now, we had team meetings all the time. I went from a club where you had a team meeting on a Friday in Wigan, just going through the team you're playing against the next day, to meetings probably 2-3 times a week at Newcastle, and in them meetings, yeah, you're right, and whatever rumours you did it, there would have been talks like that. It was a case of a few voices stepped up and basically said how it was, and the ones who stand up are the ones who want to be there. And yet, okay, listen, I don't think I was one back then, and I had not been there long, who did stand up and have a point. But I definitely, obviously, wanted to be there. But I think we knew in amongst the dressing room who didn't want to be there, and probably as fans, you probably knew who didn't want to be there, and then obviously as time went on, then players left.
Yeah, you're right. I think as a fan base, we probably did realise that the players didn't want to be there. A lot of players didn't want to be there. But I think that's probably the best thing that could have happened to the likes of the club at that time, for the likes of the senior players to step up and let their voices be known, not just in not just in the changing rooms, but to the club itself and to the likes of the owners and the directors and managers. It was well documented that the players weren't happy with the situation that was happening at the club, and for us to go on and have a fantastic season in the Championship, that is one of the reasons why that carried on. Going into the Championship season, obviously Chris Hughton was took charge as manager there after obviously Shearer had his chance as manager alongside Ian Dowie to keep us up. But going into that Championship season, especially after that defeat against Leyton Orient, fans weren't optimistic. What was your feeling as a player going into that season? Did you think straight away, we'll win this?
I mean, going into it, yeah, we knew the squad we had, and maybe 1 or 2 additions who came in. We knew we had a right good chance of bouncing straight back up. But at the same time, when you're not used to playing in the Championship, it can be a little bit of a shock. But what we did do, we got obviously on the right track straight away. We started winning, and it was strange because at the time Newcastle obviously had been in the Premier League for years, and maybe like not many lower league teams had, especially teams coming up from League One into the Championship. The Newcastle away for them was just a day out. Okay, if they had a go, they could, possibly get something out of the game. But we always felt that teams were coming to us and just looking around, just looking like, wow. Whereas we were there to go, right, get the 3 points and get on to Tuesday. And then on Tuesday, we'd be away. We'd be a big scalp for teams, but, we'd pick up some vital 1-0, 2-1 away from home. It wasn't always 4 5-0. We had some good results at home, but it wasn't a case of, you look back and think, oh, they walked the league, but we had some tough games. We were everyone's big scalp.
I remember
because of the club.
With those 1-0s you were saying about the likes of away at Preston, away at Sheffield United, which I think you forced an own goal that night.
Yeah, one of the biggest deflections.
I think you tried to claim it, but
even Doncaster. I remember Doncaster on a
huge game.
Cold Tuesday. I mean, I think Big Andy scored the winner, but even that, you just had to grind. It was a grind, but you look back now and you just look at the table and you think, you didn't destroy that league, but it's not an easy league, and it just shows there's a lot of teams who go down and come back up.
Yeah, it's a long season as well. It is a very long and tough season, like you said. We didn't go into games win 3-4-5-0. Like you both mentioned there, that there was quite a few 1-0s in that one, and games where we didn't necessarily control the games, but when it push came to shove, we won those games and we did score the goals. Obviously, we brought in a few players in that season, and obviously there was a lot of players which, I don't mean to be harsh in there, but those players that I brought in that will probably be classed as championship players, players that knew how to get out of that league. One of the major players in there that had a great season for me was the likes of Routledge, who came in, had a great season. What was it like, obviously, as from you? Obviously, we mentioned there earlier that the disconnection that you had with the team previously and the divide that was in the team. It just seems like, looking from the outside in, that team in that championship season just clicked. Everything worked for me, looking from the outside in. Was that the case behind the scenes?
But again, that just comes from winning games. We probably had a lot more team bonding sessions and maybe a couple of nights out as a squad. Whereas I think you when we were back in the relegated season, a night out whilst we were in that mess was never going to be talk of the dressing room. But when you're winning Tuesday, Saturday, you can afford to just have a night off, have a couple of beers with the lads.
Mm-hmm.
And then go again, and then on Monday morning you go again, and then you prepare for the next game. So it's just all about confidence, and I think, and because we knew we were such quite a dominant team in the league, and vast majority of the time we were top of the league. It's a big, even though you're in a league below, and everyone wants to play in the Premier League. Don't get me wrong, but you're in the league below, and there's nothing else you can do about it apart from win it or go back up. So we just had to roll our sleeves up in that season and just do the job. But at the same time, we did, like you say, it probably looked as from a fan base that so much different to the year before, the squad. But yeah, with players like Wayne, players like that didn't half help coming in, knowing the league, just knowing the culture as well. Because, and at the time he was still in the middle of his career where he wanted to be there. He wanted to do well. He wanted to succeed. So, and it just shows he's had a great career. He's been at Swansea for years now. So yeah, it did all seem to gel, but I just think it comes from winning games, and that it's just a good atmosphere, especially at home when you're winning games of football.
Yeah.
Speaking of changes, I mean, we started, like you say, scoring a lot of goals that season, and you yourself got four First goal was away at Crystal Palace. Lovely strike. What was it like scoring your first goal for Newcastle, even though it was away from home?
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I remember everything about it. Jonas Gutierrez sort of wrapped the ball at me, which was one of his good passes actually. And yeah, I just remember that I had to cut in on my left foot, and there wasn't really a lot of pace on it, but it was just to actually see it come off was, it was great with being, known as a right-footed player. So, but yeah, it was a little monkey off my back, but it was just a good moment to get that first one, and it's just settled a lot of nerves. That was all. And yeah, I think we beat them 2-0. Was it? Was it Kevin Nolan scored as well? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, it's a tough place to go, but to get your first goal for your new club, albeit in the Championship, it was a good moment. I've still got a huge picture actually of my celebration in the garage too.
Class. Well, I mean, there was the other ones as well. I mean, I remember you scoring in back-to-back games against, I think it was Coventry and Preston.
Preston it was, yeah.
Both very
similar.
Pancratius set them both.
Yeah.
But what was it like that day when you scored your one free kick that season? The Bobby Robson Memorial game.
Yeah.
What, a special night. It felt like a special night.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I mean, we gave them a little hide, and didn't we? Really 4-0 away from home. But and again on such a special night as well. I think looking back now, obviously it's very similar to a lot of free kicks I scored from that area. But looking back now, because it was right by the away end, because they were on the side, right behind me, and I've took it. I remember I didn't have a clue how to celebrate. So yeah, it was. But yeah, and again, that was you scored a free kick. What you're sort of being known for. Then yeah, again, it's just another little weight off the shoulders, and obviously helps the team.
Class.
So obviously, I don't want to focus too much on the Championship season, because obviously your career at Newcastle it did last quite a few number of years. It wasn't just that Championship season, but obviously when it came to the point of promotion, did you feel as if the club are on the up from that point, where Newcastle United obviously going into the Premier League back again, somewhere where not just fan base feel as if we belong in the Premier League, but fans from across the country, likes of pundits, and feel as if Newcastle should be in the Premier League? Did it feel as if the club had turned the corner at that point? Yeah,
of course, yeah. Because we were back where we felt like the club belonged, and we'd done it in such a way, and we had a stable, if you like, squad and manager. You're back in the Premier League, so we're going to have to add additions to it. But then what I do remember from that pre-season is, obviously every season there's bonus sheets that go to the club and to the players from the chairman for obviously positions or getting into Europe and stuff like that. And there was a lot of, I mean, because I wasn't one of the voices, I was only sort of, I was, when we had a vote, what was going to happen, there was just there was, even though we'd just come up, there was a lot of talk about the chairman being really harsh with bonuses. So I remember, I think did we play Man United first game back? I think it was away. And we, we had up until basically the first kickoff, like the kickoff of the first game, to sign the bonus sheet, and the players refused to sign it. And then that just sets the tone then to why this again? We've got the club back up. We're in we're in a good place, and then we're going to Old Trafford in one of the hardest games of what will be the season. And there's not talk about, right, let's go and do this job on Man United, or let's go and try and nick something away at Old Trafford. It's right, we haven't signed the bonus sheet. Like it just didn't get off to a good start. So you felt like you were sort of back to square one. Especially after the season that just happened the year before. So yeah, for me it was never really stable. The club, especially because constant things were just going on with obviously the people above.
Yeah, I want to start going towards the questions which people have been sending, because there are quite a few questions, and it leads quite nicely to this one. This one does come from Adrian, and it says, how did the players react when Hatem was sacked, obviously replaced by Alan Pardew? Obviously, Hatem, the manager who got us back into the Premier League, had a great connection with you guys. What was the players' reaction to that?
We were gutted, to be honest. I mean, I can't remember the start we had back in them first 10 games, whether it was sackable. I don't know.
No, it wasn't.
But obviously, you know, we all knew what maybe the connection was with the new manager coming in, with the chairman. You know, as footballers, you're not stupid. You know exactly what's going on. You do read a lot of things. Some players do choose not to, but sometimes it's not as easy as turning a blind eye to it. So,
yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So we knew what was going on. I mean, I actually remember the day when Chris was leaving, and I was in the gym. I think there wasn't many people in the gym at the time. Maybe it was early in the morning, or he came in to get his stuff to say bye to everyone, and I was gutted. I gave him a big hug, and even though, listening that championship season, sometimes I wanted to play every game, but when the manager doesn't pick you, you don't like the manager until he plays you again. That's just as simple as football works. You always feel as a player you deserve to play. I mean, sometimes you know you haven't been training well or you haven't been playing well, so you accept. But sometimes it's easy to fall out with a manager until he puts you back in. So I think, you know, me and Chris in that championship season, you know, there was times when even in the Premier League season when, you know, I wanted to play and I wasn't playing, say. But listen, he was a great guy, and he got the club back to where we were, and for him to lose his job, it was very harsh. And as players, we actually all felt really sorry for him. But listen, it was just the way everything was going. You know, it just wasn't uncommon for something like that to be going on, because you didn't know what sometimes you were going to walk into from a Monday to a Tuesday.
Yeah, I think during that championship season, just obviously wrap up on that one, I think I was reading there you made 36 appearances, but the majority of those appearances were coming on as a substitute during that season. I may be wrong on this one, but the first season back in the Premier League, is that where the players decided to grow their facial hair? Was that season until we won a game?
Yeah. No, but I think I know where you're gonna put, like, there's obviously pictures, but no, I think there wasn't.
Because I just remember all the walkout videos for Sky. All the players seem to have facial hair.
Yeah,
or was
that's
it?
all it was for. Yeah, it wasn't a case of until we win or until I score or nothing like that. It was just basically taking a mickey out of your own profile picture on A, sticker books, and B, Sky. I mean, listen, looking back now, I think I had a right horrendous set of handlebars or something going into it. But I was horrendous, but looking back, you just wish it wasn't for such like big companies. You just think it was like the club photographer or something. But it was only, there was no. Obviously, a lot of players didn't do it, but there was only a couple who
I think Joey Barton had a perfect. It looked like he should be flying a Spitfire into the training ground. He had this perfect World War mustache going on. It was a sight.
Big thick black one. Yeah, man. Like mine was probably like about 8 different colours in. So yeah, that's why this is one of the longest I've ever kept it. But listen, while we can't go anywhere, no one really to impress at the minute, is there?
Apart from us lot, mate. From us lot.
Yeah, I know.
Maddie, I'm not sure if you want to ask anything in regards to the start of that first season back in the Premier League.
Well, you mentioned the Man United game there. Obviously, we went away. I think we got beat 3-0. But I remember watching that game and thinking, that togetherness still shone through, in my opinion. I think, we thought we were going to be all right. And you mentioned Chris Hughton's start there, and there was some good results. I mean, we beat Aston Villa 6-0, and we got the win against Sunderland, the 5-1. Near the end of Chris's tenure at the club, was there still that close-knitness? Was everyone still pushing in the same direction?
I think so, yeah. I mean, looking back, because we had a very similar squad to the season before, then nothing really changed. We did obviously have we had a great start, especially at 6-0 at home to Villa. was obviously a nice way to start the season. But with everyone still being there, the same staff were there, same players. We just knew we were in a better league. Then yeah, that togetherness never left. It was just what was going on just off the pitch. And it always seemed to be that way. It was never really taken onto the pitch. It was right. We've got to get through this week without basically like another episode of EastEnders.
One other thing, do you remember your goal against Accrington standing in the cup that year? Well,
you have to be like, I scored about 300 goals. Right?
Mate, you're all there, and they're all screamers there. They all stood in the air.
No, of course I remember. I didn't score bagfuls. I wish I did. You know what I mean? But when they came, they seemed to obviously come at good moments, and they were all. And if I scored 11, 12 goals, 10 of them were good. So listen, I never forget most goals I scored. So, but yeah, look, obviously, talking of the Aki one, I remember that. I remember it like it was yesterday in that lovely blue kit we had.
Yeah, nice. I just remember that. Yeah, it was when we were League Cup midweek. Yeah, and the volley.
Yeah, they gave us a right game. They did. I think it was only like 3-2.
3-2, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they gave us.
I think the trouble which you have with Ryan Taylor goals is that they all just seem to morph into one goal, and they're all very similar to each other in regards to the all absolute worldies.
Yeah, no, that one was good actually. But funny enough, my dad was at the game, but I don't know why, and it's just typical my dad. He ended up behind the goal where I scored, and not in the Newcastle end, and he couldn't even celebrate just in case someone said anything. But I think on the camera, when it was on Sky, he was like, "Look, there I am there, look." And then you see him just sat there with his hands on his knees, like. But yeah, that was obviously looking back. It was a bit of a peach, wasn't it?
Well, Ryan, that story there about your dad sitting in the wrong end, that's going to come around in full circle very soon. I'll tell you that. It's going to come full circle.
Yeah, but at Sunderland, he was in the right end, though.
This is where the story goes soon enough. So, Matty mentioned there the likes of the 5-1 against Sunderland, which obviously brings us into the likes of the Derby days and things like that. What's it like going into a Derby day? Like how many days before did the nerves start kicking in, or is it just a case where for yous are told it's just another game? Because you'll be well aware up here, and obviously growing up on Merseyside, it's not just another game; it's a Derby game. How many days beforehand do you really start pumping yourself up for this fixture?
Well, I'd never played one up until my goal one. I'd been. When the day I signed, I think the next day I didn't have clearance, and we played and we drew 1-1. I think Shola scored a pen. Tails made an unbelievable dive for it, and we drew 1-1. And then never, obviously because we went down and stuff, we never played in one. But then the year after, I weren't involved in them, which was obviously disappointing. But then when Pardew came in, we've gone into a fresh season. We've just gone off the back of a home draw against Arsenal. And I just got chucked in left back because Jose went. And the gaffer just comes in and tells me I'm playing left back. And, it was a bit odd. But so I didn't have much time to prepare for Arsenal. And then you get the Arsenal results out the way. And I grew in confidence because, if you like, I've just played left back against Arsenal's new electric signing in Javinho, who everyone was obviously expecting a lot from. And then he went off, and then the speed merchant Walcott at the time, he comes on, and, again, he didn't really do anything. And so as a player, that just gives you a bit of confidence. And then the next game is the Derby, which obviously is quite strange. Second game into the season, our first away game. And a manager never normally changes his team, especially after a good result. And 0-0 first game of the season, against Arsenal, it's not a bad result. But then at the time, because I'd never played in the Derby, I didn't really know what was going to happen. And it's only when you get off the bus and get the abuse, you think, wow, like they don't like us, do they? And then the atmosphere was good because, again, you just get an abuse, and all you want to do is just prove people wrong. And to be honest, I think when we played that Derby, we should have beat them a few, because they should have had a man sent off after about 20 minutes with a handball on the line. But
Seb Lawson on
the line. But as a player, the next derby for me, I knew what I was getting myself in for, and I knew how to prepare for one. And some of them they're just not great. Like, some of them aren't great games, or most of them probably aren't. You just want to win, and that's at the end of the day, you don't care how you play as a team. You just want to win, and obviously then sometimes that your emotions can get the better of you, and you never perform to how you should. And it normally is the calmest team on the day do come out with the win. But yeah, as players and coaches, and we all got reminded as to what it meant. But for me, because that was my first derby, I wasn't that sure on everything.
What I expect,
because of where I'm from. Like, as a kid, it's so different because I grew up with an Everton fan as a mum, a Liverpool fan as a dad. My older brother's an Everton fan, and I was the Liverpool fan. So it was 2-2 in the house. So and it wasn't really a case of like, you know, there was no animosity, and especially amongst friends, because we're in the same city. So for me, playing in such a big derby like that, obviously then it opens your eyes as to what hatred in football is all about.
What's it like? Obviously, there was quite a couple of local lads in the team at the time that you mentioned earlier on. Stephen Taylor was in there. Is he proper hyped up going into this game?
Mate, he's hyped up playing Crystal Palace at home. Until he got told to stop clapping at the Gallowgate Inn. Then he had to calm himself down. Yeah. No, Tails was nuts. Like, it didn't matter who you played. Yeah, okay. Because Tails loved a night out in the town, because, you know, he'd been there. He's a Newcastle lad and everything else. So, you know, for him, he loved nothing more than a win and a night out. So, you know, he can walk around in a big collared shirt, and so yeah, you know, stay away from Tails if you can, because he'll just get you even more pumped up. But yeah, obviously people like that, and physios, you know, because most of the time the physios, they've been brought up there, they're fans of the club, so, you know, they just drop little hints and little pep talks to you while you're getting them, like, you know, your rub or something like that, and you know, just so yeah, you do get reminded, but it doesn't just come from the players. You know, you could be out in a local supermarket, and they're not shy; they'll come up to you.
Yeah, of course we do. Of course we do. The game itself, so that's that game at Stadium of Light, which is what I was mentioning. Obviously, you were saying your dad ended up in the wrong end of the ground. That happened to me at the Stadium of Light, so I couldn't get tickets in the weekend. So I made the brave decision to go and sit in the Sunderland end on the one where you scored that free kick, mate. And
okay.
There was one point in the game where you came over and you took a throw-in, and you were getting tons of abuse. Like, this was before you had scored. You're getting tons of abuse. And I swear to God, you turned around, I was sat in the front row, and you blew a kiss to me as if you thought that was me giving you the abuse. And like, I was so devastated. I was like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah, it's probably the kid who shouted "you're gonna miss" as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that video, which did do the rounds, it's a fan recording from, I'm not sure if he took his microwave into the ground, but it's the worst recording ever. But it's you obviously stepping up for the free kick, and all you as a Sunderland fan saying you're going to miss. You pinged that perfectly over the top of the wall, and obviously down over. At what point did Stephen Taylor try to claim that goal as his?
At the minute it hit the back of the net, yeah. The minute he got off Wes Brown's back. Yeah, I mean, because I don't know if he's touched it or not. I'm assuming he hasn't, because normally if someone touches it, the ball will go in the direction of he's running 9 times out of 10. So, and for me to see it sort of sail in, and I'd scored quite a few of those ones in my career. And albeit you aim for that back post, you don't aim to put on someone's head. You just aim for that back post. And listen, sometimes they don't go right, but you still see them go in like with a bounce and stuff. So you just always get told back post. And I just remember Mignolet just almost was basically saying, "Go on then." Like, his position wasn't great. so I was like, okay, like, you know, you give me it, I'll have a pop. So yeah, but yes, going back to Tails, I still think he probably tries to claim it now, doesn't
he? Probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Matt, have you got anything else to add to the derbies?
Well, just that game in general, like as a fan, to try and put it in words to us, what it's like. Scoring that goal, that's great, but when that full-time whistle goes and you know you've contributed the only goal in such a famous win, you know, was there much celebration after? I'm guessing there was.
Yeah, well, it was the 20th of August because the day before was my birthday. So I had plans for that night, but I was going up to Newton by the Sea to a friend's house for just some food. And when I say a friend, he was like, you know, mid-50s, so I wasn't going to like a house party. It was his birthday around about the 23rd of August, so we had like a little bit of a joint birthday, and he had someone up playing on a little piano and a little sing song and stuff. So, but I think when I was up there, I was thinking, why am I here? Like, what? You know, I should be I should be in the middle of the town right now.
You're currently king of Newcastle. You're king of Newcastle for a night, and you're aware.
Yeah. So yeah, looking back, you'd think I'd have been crowd surfing in one of the clubs or something, wouldn't you? But yeah, no, I was singing karaoke songs or something in a friend's house on Newton by the Sea. But yeah, but I knew it was a big deal because we always used to get pizzas on the bus. Every away game, they just to load carbs back into the players, basically. And there was pizzas on the bus after we got the win. And listen, the dressing room obviously was itself. Obviously, everyone was buzzing, but still, it was only the second game of the season. So we can't get carried away. But we'd obviously had a good start. But actually, I'll go back a little bit before, because in the game, Dan Godwin had a chance.
He did. I remember it well.
To make it 2-0. And albeit we wanted him to score, or, you know, everyone wants him to score because then the game's done. At the same time, he could take away your little moment. So obviously when he missed, gutted, because the game would have been done. But because it still finished 1-0, you just look back and think, glad he missed that one. But yeah, and then you get on the bus and we get pizzas, and I had my own pizza. They used to just get them on, but this one was labelled for me. Yeah, so I knew, right, I've made it here. I've like, he was a big Newcastle fan, the chef where we got the pizzas from, apparently, and then, you know, it had to be specially delivered. Make sure he gets this pizza. Can't even tell you what was on it because I probably didn't.
Ryan, it was probably mac and tears. That was at the top end.
But yeah, I got this specially made pizza. Yeah, so I thought, like, that's it. I've made it now up here.
So was there many nights out after, though, where like you were just getting stocked all the time because of that? Did your stock just go flying? I mean, it obviously did. All of us, we all thought you were a great player, but that just cements you in folklore now. So did you feel it different?
Well, before that game, I didn't have a song. After that game, I had a song. No, look, obviously, listen, it's such a moment that no one can ever take it away from me. And I always tell people when we had derbies after that, I always used to tell the lads in meetings and stuff, look what it did for me. Like, this could be you, you know? And obviously everyone wants to score the winner in the local derby away from home or even at home. But yeah, it just changed everything for me. I probably, looking back until then, it made me relax a lot more because they had me back then, the fans. You know, I could have a bad game or I could give a ball away and they won't be on me. And it's just the way it works. You know, you've done something that they probably all dream of doing.
I think what happens at that point, Ryan, when you do score a goal against Sunderland, that cements your place as a cult hero at Newcastle United. No matter what the scoreline is, obviously, especially scoring the winner. that cements you as a cult hero for the rest of your life. And like Matty said, it'll be folklore now on Tyneside. You'll go down in the history books because of that one single goal. And I know you scored a handful of fantastic goals for the club, but that one goal is the one which will always stand out in fans' memories. Of course, like you said, you get the chant on the back of that, which obviously we started the podcast with. What was it like when you first heard that chant?
Do you know, it's a special moment, you know, when you look back and you know, you haven't got a song. Because I scored a few free kicks at Wigan, I did get a song, but you know, they probably just sang my name and that was it. But then, you know, I've got recognition for something that I've practiced all my life. And you know, I don't know, there's moments in games you could win a good 50-50, or you'd have a shot and the keeper might save it, or even when you're next score, you know it's coming. And it's mad as players, you can hear everything. I mean, people say, oh, you know, I disconnect myself from the fans. Listen, it's rubbish. You go to take a throw and someone's abusing you, you can hear it. You've got ears. You know what I mean? You try to just blank it, but it's so hard. So can you imagine 50,000 people singing your name? You know, it gives you a little, like, you know, you run around then, and I'm only 5'11", but I felt like I was about 7'4". Do you know what I mean? It changes everything about you.
Yeah. I want to go to another question which has been sent in. This one's from Michael. Obviously going in that season, says, what was the change that made us finish 5th? Obviously, the season after we finished 12th after that first season back in the Premier League. Obviously, I know there was a lot of very, very talented footballers in that team that did finish 5th. What was it like to play with those players? Like, obviously, you had Demba Ba in there, Johan Kabay. There's some absolutely amazing players in that team. What was it like to just be around that sort of? It was attacking football from start to finish. What was it like to be in that nucleus of players?
It was great because you knew we were attracting the right players, and obviously whoever was doing the scouting, because you know, the fees we were paying weren't huge, was obviously doing a really good job. So you knew these players had quality, but sometimes you know, we were signing players like, say, Czech, Johan, Musa. We'd never seen them play, but because they're coming from the French leagues or these leagues that, you know, apart from your PSGs, you don't really watch. But it's only then when they come training you think, yeah, he's got a bit. And then obviously they're in. Then you let them in, but obviously from the moment we finish 5th, we get into Europe, and then the next season, like you say, we finished 12th. I got injured, so that's why.
Can't be saying that, man. Can't be saying that.
No. Listen, it was so tough. I recall the season being quite like draining players wise, because the players hadn't been playing European football. Obviously, there's another competition to be playing in with all the other cups that you're already in. So maybe it just took its toll. We maybe didn't have that big a squad, but I was basically a fan that season, because that was, you know, it was in European football where injuries crept in. So yeah, for me I was just a fan. Obviously I'm with them every day, but I can't participate in any sessions or any games. So, but I do recall it obviously was a tough season, because sometimes it can be a shock. I think you've seen it in the past with, you know, teams like Wolves and stuff who've finished in Europe, and if you haven't got that rotation and the quality to progress in Europe as well as do well in the Premier League, then you will get found out, and then you know, fatigue kicks in.
Yeah. You mentioned like the European football. They obviously went over Greece. You scored a goal in that one. Obviously picked up that big injury in the same game. I know obviously it might be a difficult subject to go on to, but obviously when you realise that it is such a bad injury, did you realise straight away that it's a huge concern and that your season's over, or does it take obviously for the scans to come through for you realise how big of an impact this is?
I mean, I knew I'd never done any ligaments or never pulled a muscle before in my life. I only ever had 2 broken legs, which sounds silly, but when you break your leg, you've broke your leg. There's the feeling is horrendous. So for me to, if you like, what everyone says, oh, it hurts when you rupture your ligament. It hurts, but it's a second, because it's no sooner you've done it, it's over. And then if you like that ligament, then it's just like that inside your leg. So I remember playing, and I only jumped over someone who was going to basically tackle me, but go one way, and that was out to play. So I hurdled him to go back to get the ball, and then on the turn it happened. But I mean, I'll never know why it happened, whether it was boots or whether it was the pitch. I don't know. But when I sat down and I remember the doc coming to me with the physio, and I think they knew I'd hurt myself, because I was never really one to just go down and basically stay down and like fake anything. So, and for it to be, non-contact as well, I think they knew. And when they ran to me, the doc was like, okay, what's up? What have you done? And I just remember saying, wait there, let me just rub my knee. And my mum was just saying, like, rub it. Just rub your knee. I was just rubbing my kneecap for a couple of seconds, and he was like, let me have a look. So then he had a look, and then I was like, right, I reckon I can go back on now. I gave him a magic rub. And I was ready just to go back on, because if you like, I'd scored away from home. I'm full of confidence. I can't wait it's only about the 3rd game of the season. So I'm like, yeah, get me back on. And as I stood up, I was just like, whoa, no. And then that's when I knew I'd hurt myself, when I stood back up, because I think I never went on a stretcher. I just walked down, I think, with my arm around the dock. But then, because I'd never done anything like that before, I didn't have a clue what I'd done. But then, you get your scan results back the next day, or, it probably would have been the next day. But, and then it's like, okay, how long is this going to be? And it was minimum 7 months. And you're like, well, Jesus, 7 months. It's the season. It's done. Like, I've only just got going. You know what I mean? I came on away at Chelsea. I scored against in the first game ever in the Europa League, and I've just had a good season. I've got a new contract. I'm like, oh my God. I was absolutely gutted when I got that first injury, if you like.
What got you through it, Ryan? What got you through, like, I appreciate it could be a really dark time for a player, especially like you've just said, coming off the high of everything. What like really got you through that?
The first one was, because it's 7 months, you have, they say 7 months, but it could be just after, it could be 8 months. But if you give yourself a target to it, which, you think how fast 7 months can go, but and I'd done it, and I'd had previous as well.
Yeah.
So I knew mentally what I was going to be in for. I knew how tough it was coming back from stuff like that, because I'd broke my leg, the same leg twice, one being a double leg break. So I knew what was in store, and I knew I had the best care you could get. I was quite fortunate, because I'm at such a great club that the care is going to be second to none. So then, and another thing, I think I'd not long had my first child. So, you went home, and it didn't matter how bad a day it was. You were still so small and such a baby that things like that just get you through it. You know what I mean? And if you're having a bad day, my missus was always there for me, and because it was only me and her really up there with my boys. So we had no family up there. So she'd say, "Come on, let's go out. We'll go for a drive, or we'll go for a walk, or we take the baby out, or you just forgot about everything then." And 7 months isn't bad, because you do about 3 months, then you've got your boots back on. You could be doing some light jogging, and so it's not that tough to mentally get through an injury like that, especially with the care I had.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just want to give people a heads up that we have been going for nearly an hour now. We don't want to go on too long and keep Ryan away from his family and that tonight. So if you do have any other questions,
I've been homeschooling all day. Don't worry about me.
We'll get till midnight then. We'll get till midnight.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, I don't even think they're asleep yet, so don't worry about me. I don't have to put them to bed.
Jackpot, we're going till midnight. There's been a few questions in. I do apologize for the person that sent this in because it's so far down the comments because the comments are coming through really quick tonight. But there has been a couple of questions in regards to this one player, and it's the wizard himself, Hatem Ben Arfa. What is it like to play, like be in that team, and does he literally embarrass players on the training ground?
He embarrassed players when he was in full flow at Barcelona. That's how good he was. I've never seen a drop of the shoulder like it in my life, and for people to just get sent when he drops it. Honestly, his feet, because he's left foot, right foot, mainly left footed, but he could still use his right, so you couldn't really show him on his right foot because he'd still knock it past you. But he just had something that I've never seen before in players I've trained with. But on the flip side of that, he had like bad days, like where you think,
yeah,
mate, you've got so much talent. Do something, like. But then that could be on a Tuesday. You'd see him on a Thursday and just be like, he's back. Like he was just, but for him to switch it on and switch it off, it's probably why he was never there for a long time.
Do you feel as if he could have been? If he committed everything to that, he could have been world class. He could have gone to the top of the game.
1,000,000%. I think he got a leg break, which sort of hampered him a bit away at City. So that probably didn't help. And then I don't know who he used to obviously be around or who used to speak to him and get in his head, but they probably didn't help. With how he progressed until sort of the penny dropped when he was training with the kids at Newcastle because Pards just couldn't control him. And to see such a player like him training with Peter Beardsley's kids day in, day out and not helping the first team was such a waste. But I could understand it because if you did let him train, he could upset the team. And as a manager, the team's more important than one player. But him on a personal note, he could have played at the best level ever. Like he was that good on his day.
I think a lot of people do say this about the likes of Hatem Ben Arfa, that he could have been one of the best. Obviously, we're not putting him on the same level as the likes of Messi and Ronaldo here, but obviously he could have been up there within that bracket and coming very close to those if he did have to put all his effort into it. But like you said, maybe it's the people who he was hanging around with outside of the football.
Yeah. But you look at it and think, who scores them goals he scores? Like, you name a player now who could do that in the Premier League against Bolton and Blackburn. Like, who you don't see them goals. They're like they're for special people. So if he could do that, why couldn't he do it a lot more? And again, that comes from in there. I'm telling you.
Speaking about players, I mean, there's a few in the chat there about not fulfilling potential, and it's not the same level as Hatem Ben Arfa. But what did you make of Nile Ranger's time at the club, Ryan? Because he would seem like a player who could be a very good player. And he signed a new contract and he started scoring a couple of goals, and then obviously he went the way he did. Yeah,
I mean, I was always one when I was there because I'd been there a little while trying to help Nile. But he was tough because, again, he had a lot of talent growing up because he was in every England setup for his age, and he was progressing nicely, and he was always training, and then he was getting in squads. So you would always say to him, like, I was a big, I used to get on his back with get a bag of balls and use your left foot because he never liked losing his left foot. So I always tried to help him in that way. But again, I've seen it with quite a few players during my career where there's only so much you can help them with. There's only so much time you can give people without them, if you like, saying, So just basically just going like, leave me alone. But they don't say that. They'll be like, yeah. But then all you want to do is go home and play on this PlayStation. Or all you want to do is go on a night out in town and have a fight. So what? Like, how can you control it? He's a young boy living a dream, basically. And you know what? The worst thing about it, Niall was actually a really nice kid. Again, it just comes from people maybe who he's with on a daily basis. So yeah, disappointed when you look back and think how you know, where he could have got to, and again never fulfilled it.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about, well, not from your injuries, some more happier things now. I mean, you coming back, everyone was so happy to see you come back, and you got pretty much through straight into the fire with Man City away in the cup. I think you got played at centre mid. Was that correct?
Yeah, it was. I played in a 3 with Jack Colback and Mehdi Abid.
I know. There's a pass from the past.
So the good thing for me was I had legs around me who obviously put in a shift. So yeah.
What was that like, though? I mean, we didn't have a great, we don't have a great history with City, and we'd put a pretty weak inside out, and we'd go and pick up the results. So was that just the cherry on the icing on top of the cake for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think it's well publicised, and I've said it in previous interviews and everything else, that I didn't have a clue I was playing.
Oh wow!
Yeah, for some reason, we didn't do any team shape. We didn't. Not that we weren't focused on the game. I think he just kept it a bit of a secret. Or if we did do team shape, he mixed it. So like no one knew what the team was going to be. So for me, I knew I was in the squad, which buzzing, absolutely buzzing. Back in the first team squad. Okay, we've got City away. It's going to be tough. They're going to play their bench and a few who haven't been playing, but it doesn't weaken it really with the money they were spending at the time. So, and then a couple of hours before the game we're having pre-match meal, and then after the meal again, still I haven't got a clue I'm playing. And then maybe he done it for that reason, because I'd had a few under 23s games or 21s, I think they were at the time, and just to build my fitness back up, because it had been so long. But nothing can prepare you for when you're playing in, like, if you like, in the men's league against top players. So and like I say, maybe he done it just because of that. So I didn't use up a lot of nervous energy, and I could just basically have an hour or two before the game to tell people I'm playing, and then go and play. I didn't have too much time to think about it. So yeah, we played them away. And listen, I think on the day I think I ate David Silva, and I was quite gutted, to be honest. I think he went off with a knee injury and he was out for a few months. But looking back on it, obviously, maybe him going off was a big moment in the game. It was so early because of how good he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, we beat them 2-0 and straight up, like, I think even I block one on the line with me bits, and it just worked. That day just or that game, should I say, that game just sort of, it was such a fitting moment to cap off 26 months of hell, because in them months, there was times I told my dad, I'm not doing it, I can't, I'm finished. Mentally it was tough, because when I re-ruptured it was the moment I thought, can't do that again. And little did I know it was going to be 19 more months, not 7.
Is that when you went to Richard Stedman? Is that when you went to Stedman?
Yeah. So, I'd had that many dark days in them 26 months, because I had to get my head around the fact that I've done it again and everything else. And so yeah, it was that game just like it just, my emotions just came out of me that game, especially when we won, because like I say, and I played 90 minutes. I think I even got shifted to right back at one point, and my calves were killing. And the good thing was I was only chasing James Milner, so he wasn't that good. So albeit obviously a fantastic player, he's no Sterling, let me tell you. So yeah. then I was interviewed straight after the game by Sky, and then I was last on the pitch. Obviously, the away end was still bouncing. Everyone
I remember that. Yeah.
Everyone was still they stayed there, and I went over, and I remember throwing my shirt away, and a little boy caught it, and he sent it into the club, and I signed it and everything for him. But if I could, we were talking about crowd surfing on the day. If that game, if we were still there now, I'd still be there. You know what I mean? I could have stayed there all night, just basically, because what better feeling? You've just won your first game back. The crowd is singing your name. Why would you want to get off the pitch? So on my way back to the dressing room, I had a nice lonely walk back on the Etihad pitch, and the manager, obviously Pardew at the time, had basically told everyone as soon as he walks in, we make a riot and we sing his song. And everyone to a man was stood there, players, staff, kitmen, you name it, all the physios, because they knew how much effort I put in 26 months. And just for that moment, they knew I'd gone through hell and back, because, there's no worse place to be than the physio's room when you're a footballer. So I went back and they basically belted out my song, and we were banging on the walls, and you'd have thought we'd won the cup that night, but you know what? No one, again, it's another moment. No one can take that away from me, and that's why I always say Pards was my favourite manager to work with, because anyone can have an opinion on people, but my opinion on him was he never once left me out when I went through them days. Obviously, it was well publicised that I'd done some scouting at the club just to keep me in the loop of football. So, and any FA Cup trip, when it was FA Cup weekend, say, or any European night, when we played Benfica, he took me to Benfica just to sit in the stands and watch the game, because it was a big night. So he never left me out. And then obviously doing that in the dressing room, things like that I'll never ever forget. And that's why I'm always thankful for him, because he was a great manager for me.
Do you feel he was a great manager in Pardew?
For me, yeah. I know other players didn't have that relationship with him. So for me, yeah. So again, it just comes down to personalities. You know what I mean? I always feel like I'm quite easygoing and easy to talk to. From where I'm from, you could never grow up and be snobby. You could never grow up and be big time. And I've had to work for everything. I put so much effort into where I got to in my career that, people say, I like to think myself as a humble guy who, day by day, I just enjoy it. And I look back and think, obviously, I'm gutted on the injury front, but, I reached the Premier League where I grafted as a kid to try and get to.
Yeah. One of the questions, obviously, you mentioned the likes of the dressing room when you first went back in the dressing room. Obviously, this is onwards on this one, but there's a great question in here from Michael, and he says, in the All or Nothing Spurs documentary, Jose's assistant says Sissoko is a huge part of the dressing room. Is it true? And why do you think he didn't bond well with the likes of Newcastle United fans?
Yeah, I watched that as well, and when I heard that, I was amazed, because he wasn't like that at Newcastle. He was always in with the French lads, but he was never vocal. And for him to obviously have gone to Spurs, maybe off the back of that was it the World Cup he had? And when he got his move, he had a good World Cup, and maybe that just changed him as a person. And going into that Spurs dressing room, I don't know, but he wasn't like that at Newcastle. He wasn't very vocal. He, like I said before, he was very, very like in just with his little clique of French lads. Yeah,
this is what I want to speak about, because rumours at the time is when Newcastle did bring the influx of French players in there. Could you see a divide? Because there was the rumours going around that the French lads used to sit on the table in the canteen, the English lads used to sit on the table. And did the club not introduce something where they said that you had to mix with each other?
They didn't really. No, not really. I mean, obviously you couldn't do it in today's day, but there was a thing every day where you shake everyone's hand. When you come in the morning, you make an effort and you shake everyone shakes everyone's hand. But the old Prime Minister be having kittens if he heard that right now, wouldn't he? But yeah, it wasn't a rule that you had to sit and mingle and stuff like that, because everyone's to their own and they have obviously friends. But when you come in the morning, you don't walk past anyone without shaking their hand and saying good morning, and just something like that was obviously, it didn't seem big, but then, if I had a problem with you, say, and I had to walk past you in the morning, I have to shake your hand and say good morning, and you just forgot about maybe a bad tackle in training the day before or something. So
yeah,
that was the only thing I can recall. There was no like you've got to have two French lads, one Ivory Coast lad, and one English lad all sat on a table, and no, it wasn't like that. You
so
had
can
your
we
own
just
group
say
to make.
when you went in the canteen, it wasn't like turning up for a wedding where you've got your placemats and your names on the table where everybody had to sit.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. No.
You've mentioned training and the likes of tackles which have gone in on training. Obviously, you came and picked up an injury because of Sol Campbell, if I remember right. Did you not? Yeah. Was it your ankle which happened in training?
Yeah, he ruptured two of my ankle ligaments in training. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Sol Campbell, when he arrived at the club, he was just for lack of a better word, I would say a lump. He was just this powerhouse, wasn't he? Just a powerhouse, and he was just steamrolling players left, right, and centre. He couldn't even fit in the training t-shirts at the time.
Yeah, he was huge. He just obviously had that reputation behind him, but I mean, listen, I never know why Sol tackled me the way he did, because I remember it was next goal winning in a 5-a-side or something, or a 7-a-side game. It was just next goal winner. So, and even being honest, I think in that little game, I'd scored a few. I used to just like run up front and stuff like that in like little games like that, and I used to just like hang offside and stuff like that. But there was no offside. You know what I mean? So just like, but like Peter Lovenkrands used to do it all the time, and so I probably got bad habits from him. He used to just stand offside in like games because he knew there was no offside. So, and I probably done Sol's head in, but there was still no need to, I think he did like, he purposely went to go through me. I always think, because still to the day, he never apologized for what he did. So for me, I never liked the guy. Because of that, I used to sit facing him. So then he come in, and then I think he asked me a question on like what do you reckon it is, or something like that. He never went, listen, I apologise. I didn't mean to. It's just, you'd take that, but for them to just go, oh, what's up? Like, then that was it. Then my relationship with, if any, with him was finished, because you lose, in training. You can accept it in games because it's a game. There's a lot riding on it, but when it's training and someone does that to you, no one really, very rarely come across a story where someone's done someone that bad in training that they have to miss like 4 months of the season, and to not get an apology. We can, well, like you said, he was a lump.
I'll take full ownership of that one. Don't worry.
No, you said it, not me.
One of the questions, and there's been loads of comments on this, not just on the chat tonight, but in our WhatsApp group and obviously on social media, is it true what happened on the training ground between Stephen Taylor and Andy Carroll? We don't have to go into details, but is it true?
Well, you tell me what you've heard.
So, was there a jaw broken?
I don't know what's true, because I don't know your WhatsApp.
Was somebody's jaw broken or damaged in a training exercise?
Well, let's just say there was only one winner, and that was it. Yeah.
Did the winner score again?
Against Doncaster, but let me just say, it was a non-contest. I'll tell you that.
Fair play.
We'll take that. Hopefully that's answered everybody who's asking that question. There's been another one on this principle. Is it true that Kevin Nolan had an Airbnb where Andy Carroll stayed in?
No, he basically took Andy under his wing because he knew, one, he was a key player for us, and at the time probably living on his own. Kevin, to be honest, Kevin used to invite me because I lived on my own. He used to invite me around a lot for like, just come round, have your tea with us. He used to have like a wife and kids and stuff. And he knew I was just around the corner on my own, but I felt like I was just getting in the way. So I never really ever. I probably went round a couple of times, probably not even a handful in the years I was there with him, but he just probably took it upon himself to go. Oh,
just outstayed his welcome a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, they then became close friends, and but obviously, it was it wasn't well hidden that stuff happened to Kevin's house when Andy was there, because at the time he obviously wasn't settled off the pitch.
Yeah, Kevin's lodger. Yeah, Kevin's lodger. It's one of my favourite Newcastle United chants. We all want to live in Kevin Nolan's house to the tune of Yellow Submarine. One of my favourite chants. I love it. Another few questions just came in of being in relation to the yellow kit, so the banana kit. As a player, what did you think of that kit?
Yeah, that was the Palace kit, wasn't it? We were talking about before the first year. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. If I'm being honest, it's just two different tones of yellow stripes. It wasn't the best. I was never a big fan of it. Probably a bit baggy as well. Probably went a size up or something like that. I never felt comfortable in it, but at the same time, listen, you've got the badges on there. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter what colour the kit is. But on the eye, it wasn't the prettiest kit. Or the best away. Let's say the best. It wasn't my favourite away kit.
What is your favourite away kit?
Do you know what? So I never really got to wear it because it was probably in one of them years. But I actually liked it half blue, and I had a purple with a green. I actually liked that one, and I always remember that we played West Brom away in it.
Yeah.
I think he scored a good little.
Press scored, yeah, he did, yeah.
And that one, I liked that one. But obviously all to our own. Do you know what I mean? And even again, look, going back to the Aki one. It was blue, and I'm not a big fan of blue, obviously, because of where I'm from.
Yeah.
But I like that kit. Maybe because I scored in it, I don't know. But
possibly.
But yeah.
I'm not sure if you've seen that question at the very bottom of the screen, but I'll put it on screen. This is a great question. It's something which never even popped into my mind. Is what was the player's response to the Colours Party hashtag, which was on Twitter? This isn't, obviously we'll go back to this question, but a question which I have you relating to this one. I got a private message off Rob Elliott, goalkeeper, and he wanted me to deliver 30 of these T-shirts to his house. So I had 30 T-shirts printed, and he said he was going to give them to the players. Did the players receive those T-shirts? Or does Rob Elliott have 30 T-shirts in his boot still?
Yeah, honestly, you don't want to go in Rob's car. Because you don't know what's in there. So they're probably half still in there. But what were they, like Colours Party T-shirts or something?
They were just Colours Parties T-shirts. It was, if you remember the Party Rockers, the kid with the big afro, it was Colaccini on the T-shirts with Colours Party underneath.
Do you know what as well? I wasn't there. And how bad is it? I lived over the road from him, like more or less facing him. And I wasn't at his party, but I think because I was injured and they were all obviously eating loads of food and getting on the wine, and Colo and Jonas used to drink this drink. Oh my God, it was like petrol. So that was probably getting chucked about, and I'm probably on crutches, and the last thing. But I could have came and had some food with you. But yeah, I remember it was like trending and all that. Like it's like obviously up there that Colo had a big party, and God knows how pictures get out because, who with the right mind, like, goes, oh, lads, smile. Like, you're at a party in someone's house. It's like, lads, just put your phones away. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't take any pictures. But, but then it gets out and yeah, it gets trending.
Well, you've mentioned pictures, which leads us on to the next little segment of this podcast, mate. So I've got a few pictures, which obviously we've sourced these ourselves, but there has been somebody else who sent these photos in. I'm going to show them on screen. I'm going to take one at a time. I do apologize for people who are just listening to audio on this one. But if you can just give us a brief explanation of what's happening in some of these photos. So first of all, we are going to go with this one.
Okay, yeah. So that's just your average Christmas do. Every club has one, providing you're doing okay in the league. And obviously, the lads, what they do, I think I was actually the instigator in everyone's costumes, because what I did, I put like 30 or 40 different names into a hat, and then you had to pick out the hat. It was probably like one of my only involvements that season, because I've got a bottle of beer in my hand there, which I'm surprised I even put on the picture. But I went as that so I could have some freedom in me, if you like, so I wasn't like trapped in anything with my knee. So I could like, bend me leg and stuff like that, and I didn't have to get in no big mad costume. I mean, Rob Elliott next to me hasn't even got a costume on there. He didn't even bother. Look at him. But yeah, that was obviously every team has a Christmas party, and that was just ours. And that again, that it just sort of shows you, like, we got like 2 or 3 days to have like a little blowout around Christmas time, and if that's all that turned up, it just sort of almost tells you what other people wanted to do, because a lot of lads were like, you don't see Ben Arfa or Johan on there. I know obviously a lot of faces are covered up and stuff, but
can you remember who every single person is? So if we go through them, if me and Matty try and figure it out from left to right, so you've got Rob Elliott, who's Chewbacca, then obviously you, and I want to say Stephen Taylor.
Yeah, I think it's Stephen Taylor. Tim Kroll.
Yeah,
Tim
it is.
Kroll.
That's Tails.
Tim, Sammy,
Willow,
right?
Mike Williamson, Spider-Man's tough. That
Jonas, like.
I know it is. No, it's Bestie.
Is it right?
Leon
Okay.
Best, then obviously Shola, David Santon. Then that is Danny Guthrie, I think.
I think it's Paul Dummett.
Oh, it is. It is Paul Dummett. Yeah,
I'll keep you right, Ryan. Don't worry.
No, it is. Then obviously you got. I mean, Iron Man could be anyone.
It's Young and Biwa. It's Young and Biwa.
Is it? Is that who it is?
It is, because there's a great photo later on in the evening where Younger and Biwa actually smashed out of his face, and he's using David Santon's Mickey Mouse hands as a pillow.
And then obviously you've got Colo, and next to Colo, that's Jonas.
So at what point did Vernonita just decide to buy a Superman t-shirt from the local shop?
But again, that's what I mean. He draws Superman out, so you expect him to come as the way Spider-Man is there. In all Superman gear, and then it's like he's gone to Primark and bought a Superman t-shirt, and it's like he got some stick, that I'll tell you. He makes no effort there. I think I rigged mine so I could just go as like an NBA basketballer, but I tried so hard to keep that ball all day, and then because we were in Dublin, Jonas just went, yes, go on. Like, this was late on in the night, and I've had this size 3 ball under my arm all night, and people are like throwing it around bars, and I still end up with it after like 3-4 different bars, and then Jonas is like, yeah, go on, and then just goes boom, boots in the river in Ireland, in that little river that runs through the city, never see me ball again.
Is the fancy dress there so you can basically enjoy your night without getting recognised as much as what you would do normally? Yeah,
but it also, it just brings a little bit of a team spirit. You walk, because what we'll have done there, we'll have played on the Saturday, and then we've gone straight to Dublin after the game, and then you have your Saturday night out. So people go a little bit nuts on the Saturday and feel absolutely awful on the Sunday morning, and then on the Sunday morning when it's like fancy dress time, they come down and they look terrible, and then let alone what they're wearing. Normally I would leave it till I was sort of like middle of the group. Then I could so I wasn't first in the bar, stood there like a divvy in like some random outfit when no one else was there. And so I leave it to like, you know, if you have to meet at 5:30, go at like 25 to, and yeah, okay, you might get a fine of like a Jaeger bomb or something, or 2 or something like that, but I'd happily do that instead of standing there. But you know, when the lads are coming down who have been a bit ropey from the night before, yeah, it's just a good little bit of banter, and then you just leave it on all day then. And there's probably 2 games of footy on a Super Sunday, and you go to the pub and you sit there in the pub in it, and okay, you look daft, and yet a lot of people won't get recognised because they got masks on. So it just helps you to let your hair down a little bit.
One quick question, Chris, before we move on to the next picture. You mentioned Jonas there. He obviously was a big character, loved by all of us. Do you still, like, you're in contact with him still? And what was it like being around when he made his comeback and, you know, did what he did after having his illness? Yeah, I do still keep in contact with him. I still keep in contact with him and Colo. Yeah, they were two diamonds, like the two of them. Honestly, they were both amazing fellas, and obviously good servants. But I got on really well with them. There was a couple of us who got on so well with them that we sort of grew a little bond, like as a little group and stuff. And then I didn't get invited to Colo's party.
What was he like as a captain, Ryan?
No, he was good, mate. Yeah, he hated losing. Very rarely in training you'd find him on the losing team. But he was good. He wasn't like dead vocal or nothing, but you know, he wouldn't accept. He had standards, and you know, if you didn't hit them standards for him, he'd have a quiet word, or he'd tell you at half time or full time, or so yeah, he was good. I've had more vocal captains and I've had less, but he was good. But speaking of Jonas, Matt, he was such a big character in the dressing room. Every day, you knew where Jonas was in the building. He was either screaming at the top of his voice, just like in a loud scream, just to let off some steam somewhere, or so you just knew where he was. But again, he's gone away and he's come back. He's recovered from what he did. He came back, and obviously everyone's open arms for him because of what he's gone through. And obviously then to sort of finish the way he finished, it was okay. It didn't end well, but his goal will always. That's
how we'll remember him.
Memory.
Yeah. So special, such a special day.
I think that goal, obviously, like you said, you're still in touch with Jonas there. That goal on the last game of the season, that just it hit so many fans emotionally. I remember that goal hitting the back of the net, and you just felt proud as a fan that he was the player that scored. And it's really hard to describe the emotion which I felt on that day, and just because I was so happy and so pleased for Jonas, for everything which he had been through, not just obviously because of cancer and obviously the treatment which he's had, but obviously the way the club did treat him in the end. And it was just, if any player was going to score that day, every single Newcastle United fan across the world would have wanted him to score.
Yeah, it just showed as well, obviously what his celebration, because then he put his ears up looking at the chairman's box and stuff, and obviously he gets treated really poorly at the end, but for him, I bet it was a big
bittersweet
for him.
Ryan, we've got people asking there as well, and probably the best time to ask it. So sorry to nip in, Chris, but like the way you left the club, you sort of got interviewed and said that you got a phone call. You were with Jonas at the time, and was that correct?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were doing our UEFA B license in Belfast. And listen, I weren't soft, and maybe Jonas weren't soft. So you know what's coming. There's been no talk of anything between the two of us about staying. So we weren't daft, but we just were like, well, how's no one still spoke to us like a week after the season? Like, no one had even been in contact, and then a week after the season, when you're actually in Ireland together, then they decide to ring you. It's like, this is the pinnacle of football. It's like, the top level. The next level is like your champions, your elite clubs. You know what I mean? Your Real Madrid, you know what I mean? So So you're at the professional level of football, and no one's even got the decency after that West Ham game, even the day after, to call you into the football club to discuss, one, why you're not staying, and why obviously they're not offering you a new deal, and two, like, you know, what's going to happen to you. You know, so we've gone to Belfast thinking, we've got a clue, I haven't heard nothing. So we, you know, then you start assuming that they obviously, you know, by the time that the club's finished, but then, you know, John Carver rang me. We were actually in a lesson. We were in a classroom, so my phone was buzzing in my pocket. I looked and I was like, I'll ring them back once we get out of this like lecture thing that we were in. So then we get out, and then I rang, and then you know, he says, "Oh, what are you up to?" I said, "I'm just in Belfast," and I think he knew I was in Belfast, and then he said, "Oh, is Jonas there?" Instead of obviously then ringing Jonas, but that was just, listen, I never hold a grudge against John ever, because John's a great fella, great bloke, nothing but just wants Newcastle to win. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a big fan, everything else. So John didn't even know his own future. Told me on the phone, I don't even know my own future, but I've been asked to make this phone call. And it's like, well, that phone call comes from the people above you then, to phone for who phoned you, then to phone me. So, you know, I never ever hold any grudges against John. It's not John's fault. John's still fighting for a job at the club. So is he going to go no, and then they're going to go, well, okay, well, you're gone as well. So yeah, you know, for me, it comes from above. I've always said, I never ever have a bad word or a grudge about John.
I have to say though, it was something that it adds to a very long list of crazy things that happened at our club. But for us to stay up the way we did, obviously you've got Jonas there who's just went through what he's went through, but we've also got, and this isn't just because you're on the podcast, mate, but you've got a cult hero there who's fought for the club, who came back from so many injuries. Yeah, maybe you weren't going to stay on, but you need to have that respect, and I think that really stuck in the craw of a lot. Most Newcastle supporters were fuming about that. So I think that's probably, again, in a weird way, a testament to your time on Tyneside as well as Jonas's, because we were good to see you go. We were being realistic, but for you to go the way you did, it really was upsetting for us as well.
Yeah, no, of course, it comes in every player's career. I mean, and with the injuries I'd suffered, you know, you can't blame the club for saying, okay, listen, we've helped you get back to, you know, the best treatment, get back on your feet. You're obviously in your 30s now. We're going to go for lads who are 22, 23. You have a lot more respect for people if they just be honest with you. That's all. It's just about honesty. And then to sort of be left in the dark and not be told anything. And especially when I had quite a good relationship with the board and Mike Ashley, do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you know, I never seen Mike or never spoke to Mike. You know, no, I don't think anyone really ever knows. But when I re-ruptured my ACL, I actually sat in the canteen with Mike, and he says to me, you go wherever you want. He said, you go anywhere in the world, you get this right. Not just for Newcastle, you get this right for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? I had like a good, like, you know, chat over a coffee about where we were going to go, what we were going to do. And basically he said, listen, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, this could cost however much. He said, you've got to go and do this now for yourself and for basically your body. So, you know, I never ever had a bad relationship with Mike. I always had conversations with him when I seen him. So again, I just don't understand why, you know, the phone call couldn't come from even Lee Charnley. Do you know what I mean? It should never have come from John.
Yeah, I agree.
How often did the players meet with the likes of Lee Charnley? Did you ever see him like around about the club or anything like that?
Well, when I first went there, Lee was in there every day at the club, and then he must have got, in any job really, he probably eyeballed a promotion and getting a bit higher up, and he became really good pals with Mike, and next minute he's almost like chief exec or club secretary or whatever his role is.
Managing director, I think it's classes now.
And then you, but I lost. And then you lose that contact with him because you don't see him every day. But then, you know, I lost that connection with him, and it just seemed like someone went a little bit too big for the boots because, that time with you then. Whether he was just a shy fella, I'm not too sure, but that time with Lee Charnley just never really seemed to connect again.
Have you been welcomed back to the club since? Since obviously you left the club, have you been invited back to attend events or games or things like that?
And not by the club, no. I mean, I've gone back to the club off my own back, and I've gone in boxes and stuff and watched the games and done a bit of press and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know yet. I don't know how, obviously, because you can't say, "Oh no, I haven't been invited," because I don't know if that's how it works. Maybe if there's a huge, big event going on or something, then they invite ex-players and past players, and but no one's ever rang me and said, "Oh, listen, like, because we haven't played Sunderland at home since I left, so maybe when we play Sunderland at home next, maybe I'll get invited and come up and maybe have a little chat in a box or in a big room or something." But yeah, again, it's not down to the club, because I don't know if that's how every single club works. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I'm not too sure. But obviously,
I think if they ever do a Carlos Pardew reunion, you definitely won't be invited to that one either. So
well, yeah,
your chances are looking slim.
Yeah, I know. I won't be coming up for that, I'll tell you.
I want to go back to some of these photos. We've only got two more. So this one has been sent in by a mutual friend of ours, by Patrick Forster, the local Newcastle United barber. He's probably been in touch with you today.
No, he hasn't, not today. No, he was trying to get me to bite the other day on a little chat, but yeah, go on. I want to see what he's got. It's probably something to do with some festival or something.
It is.
Yeah, I knew it would be. Yeah, mate, rascal. Worst day in my life, that. Worst day in my life.
Well, it's not just the only photo. We've got another one from that day, which is this one.
Mate, it doesn't look like I'm having a worst day in my life there, does it? But trust me, when I got to that festival. Well, to be honest, we went to watch Eminem at Leeds Festival. And I'd never been to a festival before, but I knew you just had to dress up a bit weird, So I didn't even have wellies. I had no preparation for it. So the day of the festival, we've nipped into Leeds Town Centre and just basically picked up rascal clothes off the shelves.
Rascal.
So
Ryan, you're wearing a pair of Hunters wellies there. They're not rascal clothes.
No, all right. The wellies are probably the best part of the outfit because they kept my feet dry. But them shorts, Jesus, I've probably been them more or less the day after that. But yeah. I knew he put that picture in because it was the worst day in my life, because we turned up to a festival and there was nowhere just to sit down, and you're on your feet all day, and the mud was like that deep because it just rained for days at this festival. It was horrible. The only time I got to sit down that whole day was on the one of them big wheels. Yeah. And we just paid to go on it, just to sit down. But then as soon as we got on it, mate, it was full of mud. I was like, oh, no. Worst day of my life. Yeah. I knew he put that picture up and remind everyone. But yeah.
He texted us a couple of hours ago just saying, ask Ryan about Leeds Festival. Then he sent us those two photos.
Yeah. Like I say, worst day of my life. I'll never go to, unless it's like, unless I can have like a wash at a festival or something. Don't even, if anyone wants to invite me to a festival, I'm not going.
Did you just camp there? Like, did you just camp at the festival?
Oh, no, we didn't camp, no. And funny enough, obviously, a lot of people did camp because it goes on for a few days.
Yeah.
And just to top it off, actually, we're walking out to this festival, and I can see this fella struggling with his tents and his crates, and he's just got all sorts on his mind. He's got bags upon bags. He says, "Hey, mate, give us an hand with this." And because obviously, I was still, I don't think I was recovering from the injury still, but I was obviously a long way into me into my rehab. I've just gone, and I hated the day that much. I wasn't in a good mood. I've just gone, no, nah, you're all right, mate. Pass at me. So I was like, oh, this is just top my day off, yeah. So, yeah.
Imagine this bloke turning around and seeing Ryan Taylor, Jonas Gutierrez, and Dan Gosling refuse to help him with the tent.
Oh, right. Oh, honestly, yeah. Like I say, never again. So,
Finally, we've got one more photo here, and this photo comes from a member of this YouTube channel, mate. He's very young in this photo, but I'm pretty confident you'll know which photo it is. It is this one, which has become a trend quite a lot of the time. Can you remember that photo being taken?
Yeah, of course I can. The piece of paper was blank, and he's wrote that on himself.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, no, I remember it, mate. Yeah, you know what? I knew what it meant, but you know, just at the end of the day, it's just, you know, it's a bit of banter.
Yeah.
Do you know you were the only player to hold that up that day? Everybody else refused to hold it up.
Was I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, did he? Yeah. Oh, mate,
Yeah.
you know what? It's a bit of banter. It's just football banter. There's obviously a lot of hatred in there, and it's obviously a saying that the Newcastle fans say. But for me, you know, just chin up, just get on with it.
So we've had a question in from Patrick, actually, who he's obviously given a little bit more information. I know. Well, mate, he can't cut hair. He can't cut hair anymore. We've seen that recently with Joe Linton. So he said, Colo going missing. Where did Colo go?
In the festival, he means, yeah. No, so Colo didn't come to the festival with us. Colo was always coming late. But what Colo turned up in trainers. And he found wellies in the bin. And then what he had to do then, we had to ditch his trainers because he knew they would just fall off his feet because of how much slop was on the floor. And then he basically, I don't know whether they were big or small or what they were doing to his feet, but he had to basically get these wellies out the bin and put them on. But yeah, we had a driver that night, bringing us all, like taking us back home in like a people carrier, and the only battery we had was Patrick's phone for a light, because where we were walking was like something out of the Blair Witch, mate. It was and all we had was a light on his phone. There was no street lights, nothing, and we had to make it from the festival to where this car was. And we had his road maps on, and honestly, it took about 2.5 hours walking again on roads and motorways and dual carriageways and crossing overs loads, and we just couldn't get there. Everyone felt like just giving up. So yeah, it was just, again, it just topped off the worst day in life.
Were you still wearing the shorts? Were you wearing the shorts at this point? Them shorts. Don't even know where I got them from, you know. Like I said, there's been hundreds of questions in tonight right now. I do apologize for people that haven't had a chance to get them read out. Maddie, have you got any more questions for Ryan before we wrap this one up tonight?
I mean, we'll go a bit current now. Obviously, you've worked under Steve Bruce a couple of times. I mean, what do you make him as a manager, just in general?
For me, do you know what? He's actually a really good manager. The players will all like him, but I just look at, obviously, like Steve now, and I know he's just got a new bit of staff in it, and then maybe that has obviously picked him up a bit. But you know, the game, I feel like, not just with Steve, but with other managers as well, I just feel like the game's different now. Maybe, you know, just needs newer ideas, because the last couple of games have showed, you know, carrying on from that, the second half of the Leeds game and all of the Everton game, and then the Southampton game, that was good the other day. That was really, you could tell how much that meant to everyone on the pitch. But I just look at him and think he just needs new ideas, maybe, and ideas of today's football, because I watch it and it's a lot of it before the last couple of weeks has been so negative that you can't win games and sit back and win games 1-0, and you can't sit, like, you know, Sheffield United didn't win a game all season, and you go to Sheffield United and you play so defensive against a team who's so weak, as in just fragile. They're obviously a very strong unit, and especially at home, but you know, it just seemed like you didn't try and go win that game, and they win the first game of the season, and it's against Newcastle. You're like, oh, you know what I mean? It's so frustrating. And I know Steve will be trying his hardest to get results back, because that's his dream job. So for him, he needs to just just play a bit more attacking. And it's all down to St. Maximin being injured the last few weeks and what have you. That they haven't had that drive. They haven't had that player who just something out of nothing. Yeah, you've got Almiron, but sometimes Almiron just looks like you could open the door for him and he'll run through it at the stadium. Do you know what I mean? He works and he runs that hard and that much that you just need you need a St. Maximum in your team who relieves pressure, gets you up the pitch, and it's not Wilson doing all the donkey work, running here, there, and everywhere. He's in the middle of the goal, and so yeah, you know, if he can get a fully fit squad together, which is obviously going to be tough because, you know, he's got a central defensive crisis now with a couple injured and stuff like that. But for me, he needs to be a bit more expansive in the way he plays, and that can only be, you can only do that with the players you get handed.
There's a question in here from Alan who says, in the current squad, who would you most like to play with and why? So if you can pick one player to put them in one of your previous squads at Newcastle United, which player would you choose?
I'd pick St. Maximum all day, just because.
Seeing on the left and Hatem on the right.
Yes, I imagine. Yeah, Jesus, you got no wingers tracking back there, have you? No, but for me, for the player, you know, he's so different to how I play that he's a player that you can just go, yeah, have the ball. And I can see why a lot of them give him the ball, because he will hold on to it and he'll take 2-3 players with him and it gives you a bit more space. So, but for me, it's him because as a player, sometimes, you know, he's an option. You just give him it and you can just go, right, let him do his thing. And that way, as a player, he frees up the player who maybe was marking you, so then he can help you. But he'd also excite me as well because no one giving him the ball, he'll do something. Okay, 8 out of 10 times it's nothing, but them other 2 times, you know, some of the stuff he does is like, he's a bit Jonas-like that I don't know what he's going to do. And that was the same with Jonas. Jonas used to just bumble his way through and like fight everyone, and then he'd still have the ball, and you're like, oh my god! Like, if you tried that, you'd be on the floor and they'll be on the attack. So he's at the minute, because of how exciting he is, he's my favourite player at the minute.
I have one more question. It was actually from one of the guys on the channel. It was Shell, one of our friends. She said, in your time at Newcastle, were you ever stood over a free kick and one of the lads just came on and went, no, I'm taking this one?
Yeah, Man United at home, like a bike scored.
Were you on the pitch then? Were you on the pitch? Oh my god! Well, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. Can't begrudge him.
We'll let him off of that one, eh?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, there was a couple of times where, you know, you'd miss a free kick, say, or it hit the wall. But I always look back to Beckham against Greece. He missed about 7, nowhere near. And then the one that counts, England win, or they go through, so to say. And it won't go right first time. Sometimes it does, do you know what I mean? But sometimes it's the 3rd, the 4th one. So you find your range if you get that many, do you know what I mean? You might only get 1 or 2 in a game, but that game, I remember I had one first half, and obviously I didn't score. And we get a good one in a good position, but I thought it was quite far out.
It was quite far out.
Looking back on the replays, it is quite far out. It's not on the edge of the box. It's a good distance, but the rest history, mate. He absolutely barred into it.
What was that night like on the pitch? What was that like?
One of my favourite games. One of my favourite games. You know, you under the lights against Man United, and you win 3-0, and that was a season, obviously, when, you know, we done well. So yeah, that was one of my favourite games to actually play in.
It was a great performance.
One of the best own goals I ever seen as well.
It was a fantastic own goal. It was a fantastic own goal. It was that night where we absolutely destroyed Man United from start to finish. A great game, and I can only imagine what it was like to take part in that game, because they didn't get a sniff, let's be honest with you. We dominated.
It was good. I think Denver scored as well in the first half, and then we scored 2 second half. So. But yeah, they always want to. Whenever people say, "Oh, what's one of your favourite games?" they think I'm going to say the ones I've scored in. But, you know, beating United 3-0 at home, that was a good game.
To flip around, what's the worst game you played in for Newcastle United?
Oh man, Worst game. Probably when, do you know what? When I got sent off against Bolton at home in the first half, it was the definition of a touch tackle. It was like the touch was that bad. It got me sent off. El Manda, yeah. Obviously, for me, it wasn't the worst game I played in, but it was the worst moment because getting sent off before half time is quite embarrassing, really. Especially when it's your own touch that's got you sent off.
We didn't lose though, did we? I don't think we lost that game. I think we drew 1-1 maybe.
Yeah, I think it could have been a draw. Yeah. But trying to think now, it's hard because obviously you've stumped me a bit, but just any sort of half decent loss, really. Like if you lose by a goal, okay, it's a goal, but if you've been done 3 or 4, which I don't think I ever did many a time. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. But yeah, what sticks in mind is just being sent off.
Yeah,
quite an embarrassing walk,
personal.
Really.
Yeah, there's 2 more questions I want to end on. One's been sent in by Sean Sonas, who is one of our members on the channel. He says, "Which Demba was better, Bar or CC?"
Which Demba was better? Different, they were just different. One was a footballer and one was just a freak. I'm not, as in, like, his goals were so freaky.
Yeah. Would he do that in training at all? Like, did he have that wild cardness about him in training?
Not really. No, he wouldn't score like a goal that you'd go, wow. Like, and then, might not even see him in training, he'd be that quiet. And then come to a game, and what he did was goals. Do you know what I mean? It's like, where did that come from? I think his first game was Villa at home.
Great goal.
Oh my God, I watched it again the other day. I don't know what I watched it on, but
he just flicks it up and volleys it, doesn't he? Yeah.
The technique on it was the weak foot, and it's proper postage stamp as well. Again, another game I got smashed in when I think on the first goal, and then I was injured. But looking back now, Demba was a football player. You know what I mean? He could hold the ball up and stuff like that. So they were so different. But I think I said it the other day, if I was choosing one, I'd choose Demba because he's clever. Yeah. I'm not saying Papis is not clever, but Papis was just, he had that freak
instinctive
half a season. Oh man, yeah. Like, you wouldn't even try that shot at Chelsea away because where the away fans sit, 99 out of 100 will go in there on that angle he shot at. It's like, who shoots from there?
And I think the second goal is remarkable, but even the first goal against Chelsea is a fantastic goal, and people seem to forget about that one. Yeah. Another question which is being sent in is Shola or Sammy? I mean, you pick brothers.
Yeah, no, Shola for me all day. Sammy was just frustrating. Yeah, because he had the talent, and again we were chatting about Nile Ranger earlier. Never pushed himself, and the penny sometimes drops when you're younger. Only when you get let go. So for me, Shola all day long because Shola's a ledge. You know what I mean? I love Shola. He's one of my good mates up there. But Shola.
Are you still in contact with a lot of like the core of that team?
Not really, no. Listen, if you rang them, you have a good chat with them. But out of my Newcastle days, I say it all the time. There's only 2 I speak to more or less daily, and it's Perchy and Dan Gosman. They're the only 2 I speak on a daily basis out of everyone I played with at Newcastle. They're the only 2 I still speak to daily.
Yeah. Right, well, I'm ready to wrap this one tonight, mate. I do appreciate it. I was only expecting an hour tonight, but thank you very much for staying for 2 hours.
That's all right, mate. Yeah, no, any time.
Thanks for
you said it now, anytime.
If you want to finish them questions off in the future, just let me know.
Yeah.
Mate, there's hundreds and hundreds of questions, so you're welcome back at any point, mate. As soon as you have the free time, of course, we'll be here with open arms for you. I just want to say, everybody who has watched tonight, thank you very much. Like I said, the interaction tonight in the comments has been phenomenal. It's been absolutely fantastic to see. Thanks to Matty for joining me tonight. He has helped us along the way on this one. Like I said,
very much.
at the start of this one,
thanks, Matty. It's a pleasure.
like I said at the start of this one, I'm pretty sure even Ryan will be impressed with Matty's knowledge in regards to some of those games that Ryan has played in. Stay tuned tomorrow night, because we do have another question and answer. It is with the Always Smiling Faces podcast, lads. We will be doing another live question answer, and we will have another special guest on that one. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you very much, Ryan. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Like I said, you're welcome back anytime. We might even make this a regular feature. When the kids go to bed, jump on.
Yeah, just tell Paddy Forster to do one. Bringing out them photos.
Thank you very much, mate. All the best.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, mate.
Nice.